Welcome to the Osint Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode number 17. In this episode, I'm interviewing Beatriz datangel from Truestar Technologies. They're a cyber threat intelligence platform that cover a wide range of open source intelligence data collection and kind of how to utilize that and leverage that into a cyber threat intelligence platform. It was really interesting to get her perspective on the industry from a non-tech perspective, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. The episode runs about 45 minutes long, which is much longer than episodes that I've done in the past. So let me know what you think. I really hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Thanks so much for joining us with the podcast. How's it going?
Hey, Jake. It's been going well so far. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, thanks so much for for carving out the time for me. I know that we've been trying to do this for a while, and we finally found the times that aligned. But for people that aren't familiar, go ahead and tell me more about you and your background and kind of how you got to the InfoSec Osint community from your origin story.
You got it. Hey, folks, I'm Beatriz datangel. I'm currently a product manager at Truestar Technology, a threat intelligence platform. I started off as an analyst, actually studied chemistry and finance, and right out of college, I worked in the energy field, trained to substantiate a lot of articles showing financial performance on different types of energy sources. I loved it. I found it to be really exciting, and I wanted to know more about hoarding all of this information and what does it come out to be. So it's getting a lot of data sources, be it articles, financial statements, tons of different things from a company, and making that into something insightful. I saw that analyst workflows actually traverse a lot of industries, be it energy, be it consulting, be it in academia, or and especially in security. So from there, I got into tech. I went from a data visualization company called Quid. That's where I really got to learn more about network effect and getting all these different sources and creating some sort of insightful white paper, graph, something where I can pass on to other people. From there, I went into product management and product roles where they explored more about network effects, specifically around application security, the payments industry, and now specifically in the threat intelligence field. I really like working in places that work directly on an analyst or somewhere where they have a lot of information as a person who's hoarding information, and what can they do with that? Let's use that so the person who's making that decision is using their insight, their knowledge, their skill set to the best of their ability. And that's what I'm doing so far. Working on investigations and research for analysts in the InfoSec and Osint community.
Yeah, I saw that. I did a little bit of Osint on you, and I found, you were kind of in the data scene before it was the big scene, and now it's considered like the sexiest job in America, whatever they call it. But I think like back 2014 and even earlier, you were in kind of like the data scene. But yeah, it's super interesting. That's something that I've been trying to learn a little bit more about, Python queries, SQL, R, that kind of data-driven programming stuff, and kind of having to tie that back into more security or intelligence work. So I think that this is going to be a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. My last name kind of looks like datangel or data angel, so I love playing with that, and love playing with data in different forms and structures too.
Yeah, I noticed that. I didn't know how to pronounce your last name, and I was just like, Data Angel, how ironic is that?
It works in this field, let me tell you.
Yeah, it's probably a good icebreaker. But yeah, I think that's super interesting, and I think that there is an interesting intersection there. I know there's a lot of like InfoSec guys who like really big on the penetration testing. There's people like me from like the traditional intelligence role, and then now there's these data people that are finding all kinds of information within the data, but they're applying it in different ways, like marketing, or they're applying it in different ways. Like almost every company is a data company in some shape or form now. But yeah, that's really cool. And tell me more about like what you're currently working on. Like what separates what you're doing now from what's going on in the industry?
Yeah, great question. So I kind of said a little bit in my bio, even though I didn't come from a traditional, if there is such a thing as a traditional InfoSec background, I know what analysts do. No matter what, there's a query. We get really excited. We have to think about like, hey, will this help me? Maybe not, but I'll keep it just in case. Be it in Evernote, be it in taking a screenshot, whatever that is. I want to keep it just in case. And so I'm working specifically on the analyst workflow when it comes to threat intelligence, or if I'm working specifically with a SOC, or if I'm working specifically on an analyst who's looking to level up to researcher and then go even further up as an L3 or manager level. I like working with those personas in terms of what they're looking to do, and then understanding what pains them. There's redundancies after a while. Oh, malicious IP, gotta check it. Is this real, or am I getting some sort of error code? Then let me just send it out to some sort of orchestration tool and send it away to other teams. I see that a lot, but what can we do to make that, to not feel like you're just a copy and paste type of person? You're moving beyond that, and you're using and leveraging your skills, your tools to make that happen. So outside of the analyst workflow, there's things that you'll see now in the marketplace. There's no one product that'll solve it all. There's a lot of places that you've already paid for the tools, you already paid for those intel sources, but then there's another thing that's just not there, so you have to find somewhere else. So we're now tackling something called the fusion mindset, or the fusion workflow, where take whatever you have, take whatever tools, whatever OSINT feeds that you love and cherish, and bring that into our product. That way you can enrich all in one place. We want to make sure that we unlock all of that historical knowledge so that you don't have to do that search again, maybe extend that time frame out, have to do things that are kind of boring. You as an analyst are really gifted at what you do. Let's make sure that's shown instead of just, you're a replaceable redundancy type of query junkie, essentially.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's kind of the fear that's been going on around the whole AI machine learning environment and how everything's software driven is this going to eventually kill my job? But you mentioned the word fusion, and this is a word that I've had experience with too. I worked in a fusion center or a fusion operations center. And do you think that the fusion aspect, the combination of software and physical individuals, do you think that's the future, or do you think that eventually down the road it's going to go all to software driven? Because I know there's a cost element to this that is an issue, and that a lot of people that are really into the cost aspect of this are looking to find that quote unquote perfect software solution that may or may not exist. What do you think about that?
We hear that a lot, and then we especially think about what is your enterprise attack surface? There's always going to be some sort of vector, and if you go completely SaaS cloud, you have all your dependencies are in the cloud now. So having some sort of physical cloud and any other type of software-driven fusion is still going to be the next 10 to 15 years. I anticipate AI will still be there. But even in AI and machine learning, that has its own attack surface of, are we protecting this environment where the training set or the inputs are safe from any type of malicious intent? So I think that fusion is going to be here for a while, and it's more of what are you looking to do as we combine forces, as there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and you need to secure all different types of surface areas.
Cool. Yeah, you mentioned cloud, okay, and a lot of these solutions are shifting to the cloud. Microsoft has essentially become a cloud-only company, and you're seeing stuff like Dropbox and stuff like that that's popping up. But then you see OSINT tools like Hunchly that are no cloud. We want private security. We want everything local. So what do you think are some misconceptions to that cloud concept? Because that's a big part of the fusion aspect. Everyone wants to make everything virtual, where you can pull your interface that's local at one SOC, and you can pull that same one up at a different location, and everyone can kind of collaborate and work together, but that requires, some type of cloud interface. Do you think that there are misconceptions of the security of cloud, or do you think that there are legitimate things out there that people should be worried about?
I think there's a lot of pros and cons. I am a realist. Hey, people like to communicate. People like to have things where they know. So it's local. Let's think about even the workforce environment. People like to be remote, but it also makes sense to be right here in person with your colleague. So I think it's a real aspect when you're thinking about cloud. Hey, this is portable. This is easily reproducible. And when you think about containerization and deployment, this is really helpful for our digital transformation and other types of buzzwords. And I see the value in terms of local, because you, as someone who you're doing something so quick fire, you want to make sure that there is redundancy, as well as we have confidence in what your tools are. If you don't know the infrastructure, why should you trust it? And so I think it's realistic to have, should I trust the cloud or not? But I think most of those fears are going to be quelled over time once we understand who's going to own it and what are they doing with the data. GDPR is helping in terms of understanding the uses, as well as how things are manipulated on a user basis. And I think the U.S. is just needing to do the same as we transform and try to be competitive.
Yeah, I think there's a big issue always in transforming legacy systems. I feel like the people that are in the leadership positions want to hang on to the way that they were doing things when they developed all these programs, and they try to find the flaws in the new technology as a way to stay away from it. But honestly, like, technology will keep moving on without you. And if you choose not to get involved in the new tech and become more efficient and more cost effective, then you're going to get left behind. And we've seen that with a lot of different companies. But it seems like everything that you're talking about is almost, in a sense, kind of summarizing what you're working on right now and kind of the solution that's being provided by the company that you're working at right now. So tell me a little bit more about what that company is. And you guys do a lot of threat intelligence, but what separates threat intelligence from kind of like the rest of what you're finding in open source intelligence?
Yeah, you queued it up so well. So I started off, Truestar is a tool built by analysts for analysts. Our founders were analysts, and they felt like they were doing great research. They were doing their own hunts and enriching where they can in terms of IOCs, and realizing, God, this is great. I'm just sending it to my boss or to my colleagues, and that's about it. I feel like I need to do more. And so threat intelligence is great. You can get more and more intelligent and contextual in terms of what you're looking at. But then what else? So what we do at Truestar is we enhance the sharing module. So we enhance sharing in terms of your if you in your group or organization belongs to an industry sharing group, we encourage that, and we just help you bring all of that information, different OSINT, different types of closed sources, as well as your sharing group, into one place. The other way around it is we have a community of security researchers where we enhance that sharing mindset. Yes, there's people on Twitter. They might be just posting their paste bin link, but then we can also have that here on our platform, so you can highlight the graph of first seen indicators, as well as what type of reports are also showing correlations around that. The highlight being, we want to share, but share in a very managed access way. We don't want everyone to know that, hey, you belong to an enterprise that's getting attacked by these vectors. Instead, we want to highlight, hey, so happens to be a phishing campaign. This is what I'm seeing. Are you seeing it? And how did you mitigate or create rules against it? Maybe I'll do the same. So we are really enhancing that type of collaboration. We have different enrichment tools to do that, as well as different integrations to let that happen. More to come this year, too.
Awesome. Yeah, it seems like communication's the key, and you guys are kind of providing the solution to make communication streamlined, as well as providing additional tools to help analysts do their job better. But there's two things that I need to ask about this, and the first one is, who holds that information in you guys are calling it enclaves, I think that's what you're alluding to, but where is that information stored? Is it local, or is it in the cloud on one of your servers? Who has access to that information?
Good question. So as you were saying, it's earlier about cloud, we are in the cloud as well. And in terms of who has access to it, we provide access to our users if you're in the enterprise tier. But if not, we still